Guardiola has a problem with Man United, giving Carrick only 2 years, and he is not wrong. Did Pep Guardiola just say out loud what every Red Devil has been quietly thinking? When the news broke that Manchester United had reached a broad agreement to hand Michael Carrick the permanent manager job, most United fans were celebrating in the streets. And fairly so. The man came in during one of the darkest chapters of this club's recent history, took over a sinking ship, and somehow turned it into something worth watching again. He won 10 out of 15 Premier League games. He beat City, he beat Liverpool, he beat Arsenal, he beat Chelsea. He dragged the club from 6th place all the way to a guaranteed 3rd place finish and booked the Red Devils a return to the UEFA Champions League. By any honest measurement, Michael Carrick earned this job 10 times over. So why is the conversation now about the length of the contract rather than the achievement itself? And why did Pep Guardiola, the man who manages the club across the city, have something to say about it? Let us get into all of it. How Carrick got here in the first place. Before we talk about Guardiola and the contract situation, it is worth reminding ourselves how we even got to this point, because it is actually a remarkable story. Ruben Amorim was dismissed in January of this year. United were in a mess. The dressing room was unsettled, results were poor, and there was no clear direction from the top. The club needed someone to steady the ship while they figured out a permanent solution. Enter Michael Carrick. Now remember, Carrick is not some random coaching appointment. He is a Man United legend. He was there during the glory years under Sir Alex Ferguson. He knows what this club is supposed to feel like. He knows the weight of the badge. And when he walked through those doors at Carrington, something shifted. The results speak for themselves. 10 wins from 15 Premier League games, only 2 defeats. The atmosphere around the club changed almost overnight. Players who had been walking around with their heads down started playing with energy and confidence again. The tactical setup became clear and organised. Fans started coming back to Old Trafford, believing they might actually see something worth cheering for. And then came the big results. Victories over Manchester City, over Liverpool, over Arsenal, over Chelsea. These were not fluky wins. These were performances that showed a team with a plan, a team that believed in what their manager was asking of them. 3rd place, Champions League football confirmed, job done. So when United finally confirmed they were making Carrick the permanent manager, signing him to a 2-year contract running until June 2028, with a club option to extend for another year until June 2029, most people expected nothing but celebration. Then Guardiola opened his mouth. And things got interesting. What Guardiola actually said here is where we need to be careful and honest with each other as a community, because the original headline that went around said, Guardiola blasted United for not trusting Carrick. And that framing, while attention-grabbing, is not entirely accurate to what he actually said. What Guardiola said was more humorous than hostile. He joked about how the Premier League is such a brutal environment that it eats your soul. He talked about how he suffered against Jurgen Klopp for years. He mentioned how Mikel Arteta now gives him headaches every single season. And then he said something to the effect of, and now they want to add Carrick too? For what? On the surface, that sounds like a joke. A man who is fiercely competitive, having a laugh about yet another strong opponent entering the race at the top of the table. But read between the lines for a second. Think about what Guardiola is really saying. He is not terrified of a 2-year contract. He is highlighting the fact that Carrick is a real threat. He is saying this man belongs at the highest level. He is saying United have someone genuinely special on their hands. And here is where the criticism enters the picture. Because while Guardiola was making a joke, the football world around that joke was asking a very serious question. If Carrick is good enough to scare Guardiola, if he is good enough to beat City, Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea in a single season, if he is good enough to drag a broken club into the Champions League from 6th place, then why is United only offering him 2 years? That is the real conversation. The trust question, where it actually comes from. Let us be straight about something. The narrative that United do not fully trust Carrick did not come from Guardiola. It came from pundits, analysts, former players, and football content creators who looked at the contract length and raised an eyebrow. Here is the context that makes that eyebrow raise understandable. A 2-year contract is the shortest permanent managerial deal Manchester United has offered to any permanent head coach in the entire post-Sir Alex Ferguson era. Every single manager who has taken the job permanently since Ferguson left has received a longer deal than this. And when you look at what Carrick achieved in his interim spell, the contrast becomes even more striking. Some football analysts on social media put it bluntly. They argued that offering a 2-year deal after that kind of run of results sends a message to the rest of the world, a message that says the board is not fully convinced, that they are hedging their bets, that they are giving themselves an easy exit route if things go wrong. One Instagram creator who covers United closely summed up the feeling in the supporter community well. The argument was that a shorter contract essentially shows the manager and the football world that the board is not prepared to fully back their man. That rather than saying, we believe in you and your project completely, they are saying, we like what you have done, but we are keeping our options open. And here is the thing, for a club of Manchester United's size, history, and ambition, that kind of cautious messaging matters. It does not just affect how the public sees the appointment. It affects how players see it when United come calling in the transfer market. It affects how rival clubs and agents interpret the stability of the project. It affects how Carrick himself feels walking into a negotiation for a top player. When you are trying to sign elite talent, those players and their representatives look at everything. Contract length is one of the signals they read. A manager on a 2-year deal reads differently to a manager on a 4-year deal. It is not fair, but it is the reality of modern football. What United actually say and why they have a point to now, in fairness, we have to give the other side of this argument proper room as well, because the United hierarchy did not do this carelessly or randomly. So Jim Ratcliffe gave the final green light on this appointment. Omar Barada, the chief executive, and Jason Wilcox, the director of football, both formally recommended Carrick for the permanent role. These are not people who are acting out of panic or laziness. They have been deliberate and structured in how they have gone about rebuilding this club since Ratcliffe took over his sporting stake. Their argument, and it is a reasonable one, is that the contract structure reflects modern thinking at top clubs, not a lack of confidence in the manager. After spending hundreds of millions of pounds sacking managers in the years since Ferguson retired, United are trying to build a system where no single appointment becomes so entrenched and expensive to remove that the club becomes paralysed if things go wrong. It is, in short, structural caution born out of very painful and expensive lessons. And look at the other details in the deal. Carrick is getting an increased salary compared to what he was earning in the interim role. His backroom staff are being retained and given fresh contracts. Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, and Johnny Evans are all expected to stay. The club is even considering bringing in a specialist set-piece coach in Andreas Georgsson. Carrick has been given direct input into the summer transfer window and has been integrated into long-term recruitment planning from the start. That does not sound like a board that does not trust their manager. That sounds like a board that is being careful with the public structure of the deal while investing properly in the actual substance of the project. So, who is right? Honestly, both sides have a point. And that is what makes this such an interesting debate. Why Guardiola is still worth listening to here. Even if Guardiola was joking when he made his comments, his underlying point about the difficulty of succeeding in the Premier League at the top level is genuinely worth thinking about. This is a man who has won the Premier League multiple times. He knows better than almost anyone what it takes to build a project at a top club. He knows how important trust between a board and a manager is. He knows how disruptive uncertainty can be when a team is trying to build something long-term. And he has always had enormous respect for Michael Carrick as a football person. During Carrick's playing days, Guardiola was openly vocal about how highly he rated him. He called him one of the best holding midfielders he had ever seen in his life. He compared him to Xabi Alonso and Sergio Busquets. That is not casual flattery. Coming from Guardiola, that is about as high a compliment as any midfielder can receive. So when Guardiola reacts to the news of Carrick's permanent appointment with even a hint of concern or amusement about the contract length, you have to take that seriously. He is not saying it out of ignorance. He is saying it as someone who understands what it takes to build at this level. His message underneath the joke might well be this: if you have found someone this good, back him properly. Do not leave room for doubt. Do not give the outside world a reason to question your commitment to the project. Is 2 years with a club option enough, or does it send the wrong signal? What this means for United going forward. Let us think practically about what this all means for the club heading into the summer and beyond. On the positive side, Carrick has already shown he knows how to build trust within a dressing room. Players respond to him. The mood at Carrington has been transformed. He does not need a 4-year contract written on a piece of paper to earn the respect of his squad. He has already done that the hard way. Through results on the pitch, he also has Champions League football to work with next season. That is massive. Not just for the prestige, but for recruitment. Players who might have turned United down 6 months ago because the club was in decline will now look at the situation differently. 3rd place finish, Champions League football, manager who just beat every top 6 rival in a single season. That is a compelling pitch. The transfer window will be crucial. Carrick has already been involved in planning for the summer, which is exactly the right way to do it. A manager who has input into his own squad is a manager who has ownership over the project. That creates accountability and clarity. But the contract question will not go away entirely until United start showing that they are serious about long-term investment in this project. The first summer transfer window under Carrick as permanent boss will tell us a lot. If the board backs him with real money, real players, and real ambition, then the 2-year contract will look like a footnote. If they are cautious and minimal in the transfer market, then the contract debate will feel much more significant. That is the test. Watch what happens in June and July. A word to the Red Devils community. Here is something worth saying directly to every Manchester United supporter reading this right now. The argument about contract length matters, but it should not swallow the bigger picture, because the bigger picture is genuinely exciting for the first time in a long time. Think about where this club was in January. Think about the mood. Think about how many of us had quietly started to lose hope that we would ever see United playing proper, attractive, winning football again. Think about how many of us were watching games with our stomachs in knots, not from excitement, but from dread. Michael Carrick changed that. In 15 Premier League games, he changed the entire feeling around this club. He did it without drama. He did it without excuses. He did it by doing the work, building relationships, setting up the team properly, and getting results. That deserves recognition before anything else. Yes, we can debate the contract length. Yes, we can ask whether the board is being bold enough. Yes, we can take Guardiola's comments seriously as a sign that even United's rivals see something real in what Carrick is building. All of that is fair game and healthy debate. But let us not lose the thread. The thread is that United have found something. They have found a manager who might genuinely be the right person for this job at this moment. Someone who understands the club, connects with the players, gets results, and commands respect from the best managers in the world. That is rare, and it is worth protecting. So what do you think? Here is the question we want to put to every member of the Red Devils Transfer Hub community. Do you think 2 years is enough to properly back Michael Carrick? Or do you think the board should have been bolder and given him a 4-year deal to send a real message to the football world? Is Guardiola right to suggest, even half-jokingly, that United might not be showing full confidence in their man? Or is the contract structure a smart modern approach that protects the club while giving Carrick everything he needs to succeed? And perhaps most importantly, do you believe this team, with Carrick at the wheel and Champions League football confirmed, can genuinely challenge for the Premier League title in the next 2 seasons? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is your community and your club. Let us talk about it. A final word before you go. Michael Carrick became Manchester United manager the hard way. Nobody handed him anything. He walked into a broken situation in the middle of the season, took a squad that had been performing well below its potential, and turned it around through hard work, clear thinking, and genuine connection with his players. Pep Guardiola, whether he meant it as a full critique or just a funny comment, made one thing very clear. He sees Carrick as a genuine rival, someone who belongs at the top table of English football management. And when the man who has dominated the Premier League for years starts talking about you as someone who gives him headaches, that is about as big a compliment as this game can offer. The debate about the contract length is real and worth having. The board should listen to the concerns being raised by supporters and analysts alike. 2 years, when someone has done what Carrick has done, feels thin. It feels like the club has not fully committed its heart to this project, even if the football infrastructure around it suggests otherwise. But here is what we know for certain. The job is confirmed. The Champions League is booked. The manager is a United legend who has already proven he can win at this level. And the football world, including the best manager in the game, is paying attention. This is the most hopeful United have felt in years. Let us make sure we are paying attention too. Welcome to the Carrick era, properly this time.